Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Madam City Clerk, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone that's here in council chambers or those that are on Zoom. This is the Sunken City Council special meeting. Madam City Clerk, if you could please take roll. Mayor Avalos, present. Vice Mayor Hurtado,
Present.
Councilmember Barron,
Present.
Councilmember Davila is excused. Councilmember Rios,
Present.
City Clerk Place is excused. City Treasurer de la Paz,
Present.
City Manager Jeffers,
Present.
City Attorney Salinas.
Present.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. So now we are going on to item number 1, related to the record. Meeting compensation disclosure pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, disclosure compensation for meeting attendance by city council members is $790 monthly regardless of the amount of meetings. Item number 1, the city council will consider receiving a report on options to address water customers' bills, giving direction to staff on the preferred option along with any criteria to qualify for any billing adjustments. C, authorizing the Director of Administrative Services to approve the disbursement of funds to qualifying water customers and appropriating the necessary funds from the water fund to implement the preferred option selected by the City Council and directing the Director of Administrative Services to file a report with the City Council on the total cost of the water bill reimbursement credit program within 12 months. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I will now hand it over to City Manager Chris Jeffers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As stated, the purpose of tonight's special meeting is to discuss this single item and what direction the City Council wants to give us in addressing water customer bills that may be inaccurate for one reason or another. So what we've outlined in the staff report is...
Please pardon me. If there is any member of the audience that wishes to have translation, we have headphones in the back. Si alguien necesita traducción, hay audífonos atrás, por si lo necesitan, para que puedan entender qué es lo que se está hablando en esta junta. Thank you. Pardon me, Mr. Jeffers.
As I said, tonight is for a follow-up purpose for the City Council to give staff direction on what format any adjustments or credits would be given related to our discussion last week dealing with various billing topics that were raised. Tonight we presented, really there's two options as identified in the staff report, and I'll just quickly go over that. The first option is for certainly council to give us parameters of which to universally apply a process to evaluate and make appropriate adjustments. The other one is more of a process where we notify water customers and then ask them if they feel that their bill was potentially not proper or not accurate, and then the same parameters of what we would use to judge whether they fell within a rebate or credit type program. What we put up here is what staff is recommending is the second option, to go ahead and send out appropriate notification to customers that they may qualify for a payment or credit program for relating to their August, September, and or October water bill. That then a customer would be able to simply sign and return, and then we would know which accounts we would review and apply, and then also using the criteria that council hopefully will discuss and agree upon tonight as to whether, what level or whether they do qualify for some sort of rebate or credit type program as we move forward from that standpoint. We set out 3 criteria. Again, this is staff's recommendation. Any of this is certainly up to the council to adjust, approve, or whatever. We're just trying to get the discussion going so that we know. So the first one would be to look at those bills. If somebody submitted a request, we would use the same point in time to last year to this year. So, example, if they felt that their August bill was not correct, we would look at their August usage from 2022 compared to 2023. If that bill for 2023 was 50% higher than the 2022 level, that would qualify them moving forward. We do have a threshold difference because you could be using such a small amount of water that just one more HCF could get you into that. So we are suggesting a minimum that the difference has to be 5 HCFs. And we talked about what HCF stands for. And then also, if they've already received ARPA or LIHWAP credit, there was an issue or a concern raised by our city's independent auditors that we need to be careful whether we can apply another payment of credit because those entities may say that we're using their funds for that. And again, this is just a recent discussion we were able to have with our auditors on that. So the next slide is sort of an example of what staff's point of view would be. So in this case, the August 23rd, 2023 usage bill was 45, but their August 2022 was 22. That's a difference of 23. So the first test is that 50% more usage than their 2022, and the answer is yes. Is it at least a 5 HCF spread? The answer is yes. So what that customer would be entitled to is basically taking the 23 difference at $5.98, and that would generate $137.54 credit rebate program. Customer B, however, only used 32. Their usage was 22. It's 10. Does it meet the 50% difference? The answer is no. Is it the 5% spread? Yes, but they wouldn't, unless you meet both of those criteria, they would not be eligible for rebate credit program. Again, these are just ideas to get you going from that standpoint. But it is important for us to walk out of tonight, hopefully, with that criteria, because otherwise we just do not know how to implement a program or describe a program. And that's going to be critical to us moving forward, is being able to describe to a water customer how the program works and how we arrive at these things. So that's simple. From our standpoint, we have to answer your questions, but again, our purpose tonight is to discuss the criteria, try to narrow that down, and also whether it's option 1 or 2 instead.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead.
Before I do that, can we ask that? Can I bring something up? Okay, thank you. Just because we have some members of the audience who weren't here before, in the brief Chris, can you just indicate that this is a problem that was brought to our attention in August, it wasn't an issue from before, but it just happened, and we're here to address it. And we had a very thorough explanation on it, but tonight we're here to come up with a solution or to this, how we can deal with this.
So, yes, as stated back in the latter part of August, an uptick in inquiries about the accuracy of bills started. We began to look at it. As we reported at the last meeting, there's a number of reasons, but certainly human error is one of those reasons, and we identified some internal weaknesses that we had. Council, I think, understood that, but, you know, as you stated, Vice Mayor, is what's the solution moving forward to wrap this up? And that's what we're here tonight, is to talk about the solution to be able to address potential water customer inquiries.
So at this time, I'd like to open it up to anybody who wishes to address this council on this issue.
Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me? How about now? Good evening, everybody. My name is Jose Dosal, D-O-S-A-L. I live at 9635 Alexander Avenue, Southgate, almost for the last 55 years. This is my first time in front of a council here in the city of Southgate. I have a few bills, I have a few properties in the city of Southgate, and I have 3 or 4, I just want to mention one. It went from 49 to 59 every year, every month, every year, for the last 2 or 3 years, to almost $1,000 in the month of August. When we went there to pay, we were told that either the lines or something was broke because the reading was correct. Well, I don't buy that. I'm not that stupid. I leave it. I don't leave it, but I'm there every day. I know when the pipe is wrong, when the pipe is not wrong, I own properties. So when I hear about this meeting tonight, I decided to come here, and I'm very glad to hear that you guys are planning to do something about it. And I hope you guys do it. And I thank you very much for the time.
Any other questions on this? Mr. Dominguez. Go ahead, Mr. Dominguez. Mr. Dominguez.
It sounds to me that, our water division is all fucked up and you found you're figuring out a way to rip off the residents of their water bill. What I want to know is, going forward, are we going to have this problem in 2024? What is the water division going to do to fix this? And we don't have misreadings and, the software, the protocols, and the training, all this stuff needs to be addressed. What is the water division going to do to get its act together so that next year we don't have all these errors and people being screwed over with water bills? I'd like to hear from the city on that. Thank you.
609.
I want to thank the city and the city council for addressing this problem. I was kind of saddened that there was nothing mentioned online by the city of Southgate to let our residents know that this meeting was happening. At least I can see it on Facebook or social media. I think this is something that the city should have reached out to the residents to let them know that this meeting is taking place. It shouldn't have to be left to social media pages such as my page or other pages to advise the community. This should be something that the city should actively do. The other thing is, in your decisions tonight, I'm hoping that it's far enough reaching where it would prevent something like a class action lawsuit against the city, especially when there's fault on the city and I don't want to see that happening to our city. We're in deep enough trouble with our budget. And the other thing is that you have 50% 5-unit threshold. I do believe it should be lowered. The last example you gave, and I'm only looking at my telephone, so I hope you'll forgive me, but you gave a 32-unit HCF, I don't remember where it is, but hectocubic fluid, I think. You gave the 32 versus the 22, which is 45% difference. You know, in all honesty, I still think those people should be receiving a refund. I know there's a 50% threshold and a 5-unit threshold. I think it should be lower than 50%. That's just my opinion. But that's all. Thank you so much.
I don't see anyone else left. Oh, I apologize. Raul Montalvo?
Good evening. You sound really low, Laura. Hope you're doing better. I just want to begin this by addressing some of the statements you made at the last meeting regarding this issue. Madam Mayor, you did make a statement about, and I just want to clarify about people that are speaking on this issue. If they don't vote, their voices don't, or their opinions don't matter as much as somebody who does vote. I'm wondering if you can clarify on that. And also, Gilberto made a statement about social, actually went on pretty, perhaps this time about social media pages, and I think you're referring probably to the scanner page. But, you know, social media didn't cause this issue. Didn't cause the news to be read wrong or anything like that. This is a you problem. This is the city council and Arturo Cervantes problem. You know, social media didn't cause you to be in possession of photos of a little girl distributed publicly. That was you. So you guys need to start accepting responsibility for what you're doing. And, you know, I only heard 2 council members at that meeting, the last meeting, actually care about what was going on. That was Josh and Al. They're the ones that were saying anything. You guys were just focused on yourselves. I care. You can say all you want, but what we're seeing is you don't care. And this presentation on how you want to handle it, I know that it's a suggestion, but it's just plain lazy. What you need to do, and it's going to be tedious, but you need to go to every account and survey, go by the last year. Don't leave any stone unturned. Don't screw over residents like that. Don't just go by people who respond. You have to go to each and every account, every resident, and make sure that everything is running right and everything is made fair. Otherwise, you're going to run into the same problem. What are you going to do when you go through this laziness that you want to do, and so a group comes afterwards, like mentioned before with the class action lawsuit, it's going to cost us even more money. What I'm asking you to do is get it right. You have a sewer bill coming up, and I don't want to be involved in your politics anymore, but you keep driving me with this incompetence. That seems to fall actually Arturo around. You know, a lot of people Rivera reached out to me about what we do, and you're doing it over here in South Bay now. Get it right the first time before there's repercussions afterwards, and that's from the community. Anyways, thank you. I hope you feel better too. I sound really awful right now, but I hope you feel better. Thank you.
Next.
No one else.
Okay, we're going to close the audience portion of the Zoom.
We're bringing it back to council, so what are the wishes of council?
If I could, you can answer those questions. if you don't mind. So the speaker inside the chambers, just to give a rough thing, because again, I want to make sure we don't have the bill in front of us, but just going off of what he said in general. So if it's basically a $59, that's about 10 ACF, approximate usage. And if you had a $1,000 bill in August, that represents 165 ACF approximately. So applying that formula that we did, ticks off the 50% and the 5 days. With Mr. Buckley, again, the 50% is staff's recommendation from it. You can go either way, up or down, whatever that is our reasonable expectation to try to separate the unknowns that we sort of talked about at the last meeting that come with this water thing. And again, I would just add, I think all the council, all 5 of you have expressed a deep concern to fix this process. And we have talked about at the last meeting numerous steps that we further have undertaken and will be undertaking in order to put up further guardrails to prevent this in the future. None of us want to be in this position again. Like I said before, and again, I don't do this with some sort of gratitude. I think as the chief spokesperson for all of this organization, I do apologize for putting you in the position, putting the customers in this position of us having this discussion. And we need to do better. We've learned a lot, and we will be doing a lot better moving forward from this. Tonight is the solution of how do we immediately address the past concerns. And that's what we're here tonight to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. So looking at these options, I think option 2 makes it very equitable to all residents, that all residents receive that notification. If there was a legal option office September. So I'm inclined to actually support that. Yeah, looking at each and every case by case scenario. I would agree with the wishes of council.
I don't object to that. I think the percentage of what we're looking at, right, is in option 2, you have the percentage listed there as 50%. Okay, I really think that's a fair number, but I think that there are some people who might benefit if we did go to about 30%. I've talked to a lot of people, and their water bill is consistent pretty much all the time, but it went a little bit higher. For some people, even a little bit more than normal is really difficult, especially the seniors. So I really think we need to consider a percentage that's a little bit lower, and I think 30%, if that's okay with my colleagues, I think 30% is the number to look at. And I did, with the gentleman that spoke, he showed me the bills that he had from before, and yeah, it's way out of whack, and so that you would be qualifying for that. And again, that's just looking at it superficially. And there's another gentleman in the audience I ran into at the gym, and I invited him to come over because he shared with me what his water bill was like, and I'd never met him before, but in the conversation I invited him to come over, and I think we have to look at how we can make this right. And again, I want to thank staff for all the work that they did. I know that we put you under we want this thing done fast, but that's because our community expects that. And again, it's not something that's happened before. And Art, again, I know that your staff did everything you could. I see Chris Castillo here. You guys have always tried to do the right thing for the city of Southgate. It was an anomaly. It was unforeseen. And I think that the comments that our staff was making, like maybe you don't believe, maybe you use more water because of the heat. That was a standard response in the past because of, that was the experience that they had. But in this particular case, once we saw the number of people that were coming in, we had to put a pause on that, and you guys did that in trying to not give that as a response. And then we tasked staff with addressing, and this goes back to August. It didn't just start, it began. I know comments were made tonight about social media. No, we reacted to it from August. Phone calls we got. three members of our board here, Joshua Burrow, Maria Davila, and the mayor's mom, 3 people had the same issue. So we started this back in August, and again, it took this much time to identify some of the problems that occurred. And thank you for all the thorough information you gave us. But tonight we're here to, how do we make it right? A couple of questions I want to make sure that we address. One of them has to do with this. A lot of people don't know how we build people. A unit is 756 gallons of water, something like that. 748, okay, 748. And the person gets billed a minimum of how many units? Do we know?
I don't have an average consumption, because every household would vary, but, you know, a minimum, I guess, if they have 1 unit, or 748, they're gonna register 1 unit. Then we go from 1 to 4 units, and they're billed $26.04 thereafter. Each unit would start at $5.98 a unit.
Okay, so after that, so they use 747 gallons additional, that will not be billed for them for that unit.
I think Art or Chris could speak better to that, but my understanding is if they're at 1 unit, in the next gallon, it would register into
The second
the
unit.
unit.
Right, so and it's hard for people to understand. But I want to say that because sometimes people tell me that how is it possible that I have to bill all the time, all the same to the penny? And I explain to them that's because we're not charging you per gallon, we're charging you per unit, and I needed that to be clarified. The other thing, when there was a conversation that took place with you, Chris, here at the council meeting, that it would be costing the city of Southgate a certain amount of money. I think the number that's been thrown out there is $2 million. Can you explain a little bit as to what you meant by that?
Well, what I meant by that was the outer envelope part. So if, in essence, we charge nothing for the month of August of water usage, that's approximately the revenue we were going to get, $1.8 million.
Right.
Basically, gave 100% credit from that standpoint. That would be the maximum exposure.
Right, okay. And the last thing on that, people were basically billed and for water they didn't use. So there is no giveaway here, right? In other words, when somebody got a bill and we say, hey, because you got this bill and it's way out of whack, we're only going to charge you this amount. That difference is not revenue that we're losing because they didn't use it. They shouldn't be paying for it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clear that up because it's not like we're going to lose an opportunity. It's just that we shouldn't be collecting money from people who didn't really use that water. So I just want to clear that up. But again, I guess at this point, I just want to clear that point up. But I agree with you. I think the option 2. But I think that the percentage we should look at is 30%.
Thank you, everybody, for all the good work put into this matter. I'm kind of also leaning toward the option 2 because the simplicity. I think it's important that for the customer and for our staff to try to make it easy to understand, so that there's no questions in regards to it. And I think option 2 provides that simplicity and so that's where I'm leaning right now, not understanding the whole matter. I know there's a lot of issues but underlying this, but I think it's important that we do address this. And so that's kind of where I'll refer to other colleagues that have been investing more time in this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a few questions, and I think maybe a comment, but Wendy, out of the customers that have been coming in and making complaints, what has been the percentage of increase that they've seen on average?
I haven't quantified that, to be honest with you. I just counted the amount of billing credits that we have, but I haven't been able to just separate them and see what the percentage was.
I'm just trying to use like what we've heard here at our chambers and also what's happened, you know, with me and with one of the other council members that have spoken to me about. You know, the percentage of increases that we've seen from the prior months to now was not a 30 or 40 or 50% jump. It was a 300, 400, 500%. So those are the ones that I think we can identify and say, look, we have a problem. There was a huge increase here that was caused by a system glitch, human error, but there was a reason for us to wave a red flag. I worry that if we lower the percentage too low, that it ends up being just a standard increase of usage, right? Because I'll give an example of, you know, just my own bill in 2022. I went from, 22 gallons in August to 36 gallons in October, right? Units in October, which is a pretty decent increase. My current billing was 10 units, and it went up to 37. That's a more significant increase. So I'm thinking that if we do, go with option 2, and I understand the reasoning of comparing it to last year's usage, current, because at least it will give us a good picture of that. But I think we want to make sure that the percentage that we look at is actually what we've been noticing as the errors that we've seen. And that's why one of the requests that I made was, did we see a percentage that is, more frequently brought in as, hey, here's a red flag?
None of the reads came out to where they all were at 20%, 30%, or 15%, where there was an overwhelming number that said, aha. So there was just different variations in percentages.
So did we give a reimbursement or a rebate or any kind of correction to anything that had under 50%?
We did. So the read came back and it justified that there was a 1 unit credit that needed to be given back to the customer because the read was moving in the opposite direction of what was reported. Absolutely, we adjusted the bill back accordingly.
So those were for rereads?
Rereads, any type of service orders that we reissued into the bill.
Right, that's different than...
Well, the rereads are what we sent out, just for clarification, to look at the bill.
Okay.
But I would echo, clearly, the people that commented, here in the chambers and now, and the bills that you brought to at least my attention have been 100 to 200% adjustment from 1 month to another.
And that's why doing a 50% range is actually very generous of the city to look into, because we were able to really use that gauge to then go back and say, hey, well, let's take a look at what your billing was. But if you meet that criteria first, you can at least take a look at it and see where you're at, and then make a justification there. That's why I think that's a very low number. I have a recommendation of making it 100%, because that's kind of what we've heard, right? We were just hearing hundreds, 200, 300%. So lowering it down to 50%, I think is pretty generous. But it at least opens up more potential for us to take a look at it and say, okay, let's take a look at your 2-year, 3-year consumption, and let's talk about your billing and say, okay, here's what we come up with.
Madam Mayor, so let me just clear up why I'm saying 30%. It's pretty well known to everybody. I live in a mobile home park where nothing but seniors are 55 and over. Now, let me be clear. My bill came normal. So it's not like this is going to benefit me one way or the other. But seniors don't use as much water, especially those that live in senior housing, the mobile home park. So for them, any increase that was over 30% may be part of the glitch. And so they won't see 100 or 50%. They might just see a slight over. And that's why I'm bringing it up. I think that's gonna impact them. They're the most vulnerable. And that's why I'm thinking in that manner. So again, I respect what you're saying. I really think that you know, your original battle, 100%, I get it, that most of the people that came in here had double their bill. But some people, like the gentleman spoke earlier, I saw his water bill, it's, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 times normal. But the seniors that I know theirs aren't 100%, it's just slightly. But that's why I'm focusing on that. And I don't think the impact to the budget is going to be that significant when you consider those. That's why I'm saying 30%.
And then if I may, sorry, also, I kind of wanted to clarify some comments that are being spread online. One being that the reason this was caused, or the reason why this happened, was because we had staffing issues in our public works department. And then because of our perceived mismanagement of the funds, you know, we're unable to hire people in public works. So I wanted just to ask Mr. Lopez, in your comment that you made during last council meeting that we did not have staff, can you elaborate on what exactly you were saying?
Councilor Burrow, thank you for the opportunity. So, like every division in the Public Works Department, we operate with certain staffing levels, and based on those staffing levels, we set level of service expectations. In the Water Division, we've been operating with the same staffing level for a long time. We've got certain crews that are not limited to just one duty, they have multiple duties. So a crew, for example, is replacing meter boxes or cleaning out meter boxes or doing multiple things. So in my prior statement, what I was saying is we don't have staffing to do, for example, cleaning boxes daily year-round because we spread them through various different duties, and we don't have staffing to do water meter replacements on a daily basis year-round. But we do need, but that's more a reflection of how we're budgeted and how we're staffed, not because we don't have the staffing resources to keep up with the workload. But that being said, we're revisiting, as a result of this, we're revisiting how we're staffing the Water Division to see if a recommendation could come forward to add additional staffing to increase our level of service.
Thank you. I just really wanted to clarify that because I think that that's one of the, you know, misleading comments that are being said on social media that this was due to a staffing shortage because we did not have the funding to be able to hire. You know, there's a lot of factors that have changed in our city from 10 years ago to where we are today. We have many residents that have added ADUs. We have many residents that are doing additional construction, and it's you know, we've had streets being, you know, repaved in many areas. So the amount of work that is done by our Public Works Department has really increased in the last 10 years. And our service level, up until what we were addressing today, has been excellent. So we've identified that there's a problem now, and if we need to, definitely let's revisit the staffing of that water department and see if we need to increase the number of people that actually go out so that we can constantly maintain those meters. And if we're going to be replacing more meters, that we do it at a more efficient time. So definitely something that we want to take a look at. But thank you very much for your comment.
So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we go with option 2, but the threshold 30%. 30%.
I'm not going to get into 30-50. I mean, I take the points raised. I just want to make sure we're clear what those options are. First of all, we're going to be sending a letter out to our customers, notifying them of this review and how to participate. 2, it's going to be, if this motion passes, the 30% test. We'll also have the 5 HCF minimum. spread, so, you don't go from 10 to 12 and somehow met that threshold from that thing, so I think that somewhat addresses maybe some of that concern. And 3, we're using the time period of same period last year. And there could be instances where somebody got both a spike in August, September, for example. And we would look at each one from that standpoint process. So I just want to make sure that that is clear in that motion that you made the
Yeah, and if I may, there's a couple of other things that I'd like, kind of side issues, but very important. The city, and I was talking to Wendy about this earlier, the city does have some programs, and maybe there's other programs out there that was just not identified, that help not just seniors, but low-income families. I know that it's a number of Villa where I live. We constantly get notifications if you want to apply for this, and a lot of people there applying, they qualify for it. So if there's any programs out there, not just with water, but with electricity bills, that can help our community, at some point we need to let our community know. And the other is, part of this motion is, if they do qualify, I want the resident to determine whether they want a refund or the credit. I don't know if that's a doable thing, but I should be their option, especially those that have already paid the bill. And some people have. I want them to be able to get that money back if they can.
If I could, I think the easiest way for us is to rebate. And I say that because of the software, what it takes for us to go in and do credits is a very time consuming. And I think everyone in this room wants this done sooner than later. And we've already talked about, there's a lot of manual work to be done. And so I want to ask that be given to us. As Wendy is working through this, if she feels in order to expedite this as soon as possible, put this to bed to rebate, that's the direction we go.
That's fine. That's fine.
On that note, do we have the staff to immediately address the increased staff there, or so that we can rectify this?
Well, part of this motion in the staff report was the recognition that Wendy's going to have to bring in some temporary help in order to avoid the ongoing billing operations. So that will probably be a 30, 60-day temporary help that she'll have to deal with from that. But at the end of this, the full report will be back on what happened, the number served or qualified, the value, all that stuff will be back to you in that last item of report back.
Okay, so call.
Councilman Barron,
Yes.
Councilmember Avila is excused. Councilmember Velos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hurtado,
Yes.
and Mayor Alvarez.
But then we also were saying that for the labor that has gone into coming up with the different options, both from public works as well as with the finance department and our city manager's office and signature. I do want to wish everyone a nice Thanksgiving. And that COVID is still coming, so please be mindful of your family and your loved ones. Continue wearing the mask. Whether it's for example, when events in the past, turn out, and sometimes my voice will leave me. But I'm still
Motion to adjourn. Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Now they're going to